Before I adopted this mindset, I was too afraid to take steps that would change my life. In fact, I didn't even know what the steps were. But I realized that there is a whole group of people who just seem to get what they want out of life. And those people do not live or think like that. They do what they want to do and know that it's just going to work out. And guess what? Most of the time, it actually does. And by learning and tapping into that mindset, it finally allowed me to start living the life that I wanted to live. Welcome back, my friends, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Christy, and I make content centered around realizing no matter where we are in life, no matter our age, we are just on time to live the life of our dreams. And I noticed something, and I did something with that information a few years ago that changed my whole outlook on living my dream life. I'm not gonna gatekeep. I'm gonna shoot it to you straight right from jump. The way to get what you want out of life is to start living like privileged people. And I know I gotta explain it because you're probably like, Christy, what are you talking about? You can't just be privileged. You either are or you aren't. And that, my friend, is where you are wrong. And it's probably the thing that's stopping you from getting to that next level in your dream life. So I'm gonna quickly explain what privilege is not and what we often get wrong about it, then what it actually is. But I'm gonna spend most of the time talking about what is the mindset of privilege and how do we tap into that mindset to change our lives. So what privilege doesn't mean and what it isn't. We have this idea of privilege, and many times there's a negative connotation that's associated with it. Oftentimes what we think about privileged people is, oh, they think they're better than everyone. They don't have to work for things. They're probably not very nice. And that's not what being privileged is. And that's not actually a privileged mindset. That is the mindset of being a jerk. And someone can be a jerk, whether they are the most beautiful, wealthy person living in a billion-dollar mansion, or they're in tattered clothes living on the street asking for $1. Having privilege and having a privileged mindset does not equate to being a jerk. So we've got that out of the way. Also, privilege is not about a certain set of circumstances that you were born into. It's not oh, they're just privileged and that's just the way it is. Anybody can actually tap into a privileged mindset, but so often people don't think they have any and it just stops there for them. So if privilege is not being a jerk and it's not something that we're born into, what actually is privilege? Privilege is a type of culture. I love watching and learning from different cultures because I feel like they all have something that they can give and that we can use to actually better our lives. And so whether that culture is by ethnicity or by gender or where people live, what their interests are, or similar mindsets that they all have something really unique that we can learn from. And privilege is a type of culture. As with any culture, there are a set of rules and mindsets that help that culture to be able to thrive and to function. People who belong to the culture of privilege know the rules and they act accordingly. After seeing it for a while and learning it, studying it, talking to people, and also becoming friends with people who were doing things and were living a lifestyle that I wanted to be able to live, and knowing that I felt stuck and I felt like I had been settling for a life that was less than what I really wanted and less than what I believe God had for me. One day it hit me and I was like, I'm gonna start living like privileged people. And I did not look back. Adopting a privileged mindset meant that I had to unpack what that mindset was. And once I paid attention to it, I realized that they carried themselves in a way, they viewed their life, they viewed their goals and the things that they wanted to accomplish in a way that many times I was scared to do. And to be very honest, it was a mindset that I remembered having when I was young, that I think many of us have when we are very young. But as I grew up and life started kicking me in the butt, it was one that I lost. But now I've got it again. So what are the components of a privileged mindset and how do we tap into it? Start now, details later. A lot of times we overplan and we let the fear of failing and the fear of not being ready stop us from ever even starting. And people who have privilege don't do that. They have a mindset that says, I'm going to start now. I'm going to go for it now. And the details will somehow sort themselves out as I am going on this journey. Privileged people have a lot of areas where they feel confident, even sometimes overconfident, and they don't let the fear of the unknown stop them from just going for it because they recognize that the longer they take to start, the longer it takes to get there. So when they decide that they want to do a thing, there's not a whole lot of time between thinking it and starting it. If you are sitting on your hands waiting for the perfect time, then you are blocking your own blessing. And people who get what they want out of life know not to do that. Of course, I deserve to be in this space. So many times we are waiting for people to validate us and to accept us and to tell us that we belong in certain spaces. And people with privilege say, Of course, I deserve to be in this space. And while there may be some small feelings of imposter syndrome or feelings of self-doubt, they don't let that stop them from belonging. They don't let that stop them from going after what it is that they want to do. And if for whatever reason that space isn't working out, they use that as fuel to create their own space. I believe it's mine, so it is. There's this quote, I can't remember who it's by, but it says, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And people with privileged mindsets, they just believe that they can. A lot of times these people get hate for it, but I sit back in awe of the women who are like, of course I'm gonna marry a basketball star. Or the people who apply for a job that they're not fully qualified for, but they do not let that stop them from believing that they can have it. Or like my husband, who's been blessed with what we call parking spot favor. He will go into a full parking lot, like the mall on Black Friday, in all boldness, go right up to the front and find a parking space. Like, it baffles me every single time. And the reason that these people can do this is that they've decided it's theirs and they believe that they can. They are willing to jump out there and take the chance with full on faith that it's going to work out. And you know what? Most of the time, it actually works out. The difference between people who have privileged mindsets and those who don't is that they are not waiting on other people to claim their territory. And again, this doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean being a jerk, but it does mean I am not willing to be passive about the things I want out of life. And I'm not just going to sit around and wait for things to happen. It is a very assertive way of thinking and of living that says, I believe this can happen and I am making thoughtful and considerate moves to ensure that it does. I will take advantage of the opportunities available to me. So many people are trying to be self-made XYZ, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and say, I made it through the struggle, and so I know I deserve to be here. The privileged people understand that it is dumb to try to do things by yourself because we don't get places without help, without a door being open for us and us being willing to step into that open door. I think at this point, we've all heard about LeBron James's son, who is not quite qualified to be a professional NBA player, but he is doing it because of the door that his dad opened for him. And you know what? Good for him. Recently, this whole idea about Nepo babies has come out, and we give them a lot of flack for stepping into opportunities that basically are only created because their parents have opened that door for them. But if you are honest with yourself, if you have the connection to the opportunities that they have available to them, you would step into those opportunities too. And maybe you're not a Nepo baby. Like, you're probably not a Nepo baby, but you do and you will have opportunities that are available to you. But you have to be on the lookout for them and you have to accept them when they come along. So I'll give a recent example from my own life. Back in May, the end of May, YouTube actually reached out to me. YouTube reached out to me and they said, we want to feature one of your videos in a playlist that is coming up. They're doing this thing where they're amplifying Black voices. And so basically it was, do you want to be part of this playlist or do you not? And they let me know, this video will be featured. You're probably going to get a lot of hate comments. These are the things that you need to do to protect yourselves. And it was a Google form and it was a whole thing. I could have said, oh no, I'm not going to do this because this is an unfair advantage that I'm going to have. Child, please. That was an open door. And you best believe I walked right on through it. And just because they are amplifying Black voices does not mean that I don't deserve to be there, because I know the work that I put into it. And I had to make that choice to say, no, this is a door. This is something that is available to me. It's an opportunity that I have. I should walk into that. People who don't have a privileged mindset and feel like they need to struggle at all points in order to be worthy tend to get in their own way and knock themselves out of opportunities. And I mean, I guess it's cool if you choose the struggle route, but as for me and my house, if God opens the door, we're walking through it. There's this little story about this man who is drowning and he prays to God and he says, God, I want you to save me. And so a little bitty tugboat comes by and the guy who's in the tugboat says, hey, let me give you a hand. The guy who's drowning says, no, thank you. God's going to save me. And then another boat, a bigger boat, comes by and the people in it say, hey, let me give you a hand. The guy who's drowning, he says, no, thank you. God's going to save me. Then a big ocean liner comes by and they say, hey, let's send you out a whatever so that we can save you. And the guy says, no, God's going to save me. The guy drowns. He goes up to heaven. He says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you a tugboat. I sent you a bigger boat. I sent you an ocean liner and you didn't do anything with that. So all of that to say, get in the boat. Take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you and stop hating on people who have opportunities and take advantage of them. Think outside the box. People who have privilege understand that there is more than one way to skin a cat. Where did that saying come from? Like, why are we skinning cats? But I don't know. If you know where that's come from, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, moving right along. When we haven't figured out the privileged mindset, we think that things have to be in this linear direction or that things have to go in the way in our minds we think that it should go. Many times though, the roads to one outcome can look very different. I remember when American Idol came out and it started getting really popular, something came out with a singer who was really famous at the time, and she was saying, oh, I don't support this and I'm not going to buy in their albums, or I don't listen to any music by people who have done American Idol because they aren't real talent, something like that, because they hadn't gone through the struggle. That person, we don't hear about anymore. She has one song that I still know, and I'm not going to name her. If you know the story, then you know the story. But whatever it is that she is doing in entertainment or in singing, we have no clue anymore. Whereas we all know Kelly Clarkson, Jennifer Hudson, Fantasia Barrino, Carrie Underwood, and other people. We know them and they have sustained even though they did not take a route that was the traditional route. I really love to travel, but when I was younger, I didn't see how I could do it because I thought that there were all these things that went into it. And I started getting into traveling for real when I got some advice from a friend who said, buy the plane ticket when it's low and figure out the details later. See all of these things coming together? Yeah, so she said, all you need to do is get over there and you can just figure it out from there. It was one of the best pieces of advice that I have ever gotten. Definitely the best piece of advice that I've gotten about travel, because I was thinking, oh, I need to go through a travel agent and I need to research all of the things. I need to do this, that, and the other. And I was making it so much more complicated when in reality, it could be really easy and also a lot more fun. I have been able to find plane tickets on reputable airlines that I like, to whole other countries for between $300 to $500. But that was because I was willing to do things a little bit differently than what I thought it traditionally needed to be. The thing that separates privileged people from those who are not is mindset. If you want to start living like people who have and exercise their privilege, you have to start thinking like them. Learning that has been such a value add to my life, and it's changed the way that I think and what I believe that I'm capable of. Before I started thinking like that, there were so many things that I wanted to do that felt like they were closed off to me, and they were because I just couldn't see it. My mind was so closed to what can this look like? But as soon as my mentality switch is like a light bulb just went off. Your dream life is possible, but it does have to start here before you see it happening out here. Alrighty, so that is all I have got for you. I hope you enjoyed the video and it helped you to think a little bit deeper. If it did, I would love you to give it a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. I love you and I will see you in my next. Bye for now.